The city glittered like it had something to prove that night, towers of glass throwing back the last light of sunset, streets pulsing with headlights and neon, and the low growl of engines, expensive perfume and cigar smoke and laughter floated out of the Grand Hotel as if the world outside did not exist at all. Inside the ballroom, Adrian Costa was in his element. The room moved around him like a tide, men in tailored suits, women in gowns that caught the light, crystal chandeliers humming above them, a live band playing something smooth and expensive. Adrian shook hands with men who controlled entire shipping routes, nodded to politicians who pretended not to know what he really did, smiled that cold, perfect smile that never reached his eyes. His dark suit sat on him like armor, his tie razor straight, every gesture deliberate, every word weighed. Maya Bennett stood near the bar watching him, her champagne untouched in her hand. She wore a dark green dress that made her skin look warm and golden, her hair pinned up in a way that had taken her almost an hour, but Adrian had barely glanced at her when she walked out of their penthouse earlier. Just a quick "you look fine" before he checked his phone again, his attention already split between the gala and the calls waiting for him in the shadows. She had spent days planning tonight in her head, maybe weeks. This was the first public event they had attended together since his latest business war settled down, the first night in a long time where he was not flying out or stepping into secret meetings or arriving home smelling like rain and gunpowder. She thought maybe tonight she would get him back for a few hours, the man she married, not just the boss he had become. Instead, she watched him circle the room, speaking to everyone but her, his hand resting on the backs of other chairs, his body angled toward other conversations. Her smile felt like a mask painted on too tight. A waiter passed and she set the untouched champagne on his tray, her fingers shaking just a little. She needed air. She moved through the crowd, hearing fragments of conversations, people laughing about markets and contracts and ships and rumors of wars that never touched them. She slipped out onto the balcony, the night air cool and sharp, the city spread below like a thousand little lies. She gripped the railing and tried to breathe. Behind her, the balcony door slid open. Adrian stepped out, phone in his hand, his jaw tight. "There you are," he said. "We have to go." She turned slowly. "You finally remembered I exist." He frowned. "What is that supposed to mean?" Maya laughed, once a dry sound. "You have not looked at me all night, Adrian. You brought me here like an accessory and forgot where you left me." He checked his phone again, irritation flickering across his face. "This is not the place for this conversation." "Of course it is not," she shot back. "Nowhere is ever the place for this conversation. Not the kitchen, not the car, not the bed. If you even remember what that is." For his eyes hardened. "Watch yourself." "No," she said, her voice shaking but finally not quiet. "I am done watching myself. I am done shrinking to fit around your schedule and your secrets. You drag me into these rooms to prove you have a perfect life, and you do not even see me. You live in a penthouse," he snapped. "You wear clothes most people cannot even name. You do not have to worry about bills or safety or any of the things I deal with every day. I do this for us," she echoed. "Or for your ego?" The words hung between them, hot and dangerous. The city light flickered off his face in sharp angles. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You have no idea what I have done to keep you safe." She refused to back away. "I did not ask you to burn the world for me, Adrian. I asked you to talk to me, to come home on time, sometimes to touch me without checking your phone." In the middle, his hand clenched around the phone. "I am not having this fight here. We are already having it," she said, her eyes glassy from unshed tears. "And I am losing." The balcony door opened. A man in a silver tie glanced out, saw the tension, and pretended he had forgotten something inside. The door slid shut again. Adrian exhaled sharply. "You are being dramatic, Maya." She laughed again, that dry, broken sound. "You know what is dramatic? Telling your wife to smile for the cameras while you ignore her for 3 hours. That is dramatic." His patience snapped. "I had meetings tonight, important meetings. The people in that room keep the money moving. They keep the peace." "Your peace," she said, "not mine." He stared at her for a long moment, something cold sliding behind his eyes. "You knew who I was when you married me." "I knew who you were," she answered. "I do not know who you are now." The words hit him harder than he let show. He straightened, the muscles in his jaw working. "We are leaving." She crossed her arms. "Maybe I will stay, enjoy the party for once, actually talk to someone who looks at me when I speak." The flash of anger that moved through him was quick and bright. "You are coming with me now." There it was, the command, not a request. She held his gaze. "I am not one of your soldiers, Adrian." He slipped the phone into his pocket and stepped closer, lowering his voice to a razor edge. "I am not going to argue with you in front of these people." "Then maybe you should have paid attention to me before we got here," she muttered, his eyes narrowed enough. He grabbed her wrist, not hard enough to bruise but hard enough to make a point, and guided her back through the balcony door into the glow of the ballroom. Eyes turned toward them, then away. Whispers brushed against silk and glass. They walked through the crowd like a storm. She kept her chin high, even though her insides felt like they were unraveling. Outside the hotel, the valet rushed to bring the car, a sleek black sedan that hummed with quiet power. The night felt different here, cooler, sharper. The laughter from inside muffled by heavy doors. They slid into the car, Adrian behind the wheel, not the driver. Tonight he had sent the man home. earlier saying he wanted privacy. The engine roared to life. He pulled away from the curb with more force than necessary, the city lights streaking past in blurred lines. For a while neither of them spoke, the tension thick between them, the only sounds the hum of the engine, the faint static of the radio. Searching for a station, Maya stared out the window, watching the reflection of her face slide over dark glass. She barely recognized the woman looking back at her, eyes tired, lips pressed tight. She remembered when being in a car with him felt like the safest place in the world. Music low, his hand on her thigh, laughter spilling between them like something endless. Now it felt like a cage on wheels. She finally broke the silence. Do you ever regret it? He did not look at her. Regret what? Leaving who you were to become this? He snorted under his breath. This keeps us alive. No, she said quietly, this keeps you powerful. There is a difference. The traffic thinned as they left the center of the city, heading toward the quieter streets near the river. Yellow streetlights cast pools of tired light on the asphalt, their car cutting through them like a black knife. She turned to him again. When did we stop being on the same side, Adrian? When did I become another problem for you to manage? You are not a problem, he muttered. You are just pushing me on the worst night for you, she said, voice rising. For me, every night is the worst night because I do not know if you will come home or if someone will call and say they found your body in a warehouse. That is how it works, he snapped. I keep my enemies in fear and they think twice before touching what is mine. She flinched at the word mine. I am not property. The argument spiraled sharper, the car eating up the distance between the city and the river road. His hands tightened on the wheel, her hands tightened on the seatbelt. They threw old hurts at each other like knives. Missed anniversaries, unanswered calls, broken promises. Finally she said the one thing she had kept buried deepest. I am lonely, Adrian. The words cracked in the air. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. I am right here. No, you are not, she whispered. You come home, but you are not with me. You lie beside me, but your mind is always somewhere else. If you died tomorrow, the men in that ballroom would mourn you longer than I ever got to hold you. Something in him snarled at that. You think I enjoy this? You think I like working 14 hours a day dealing with threats and idiots and people who want to kill me? I think you like winning more than you like being my husband. The sentence hung between them like a blade. He pulled the car to the side of the road so suddenly her body jolted forward, the seatbelt cutting into her shoulder. They were on a long dark stretch near the river, no other cars in sight, water glinting faintly beyond the guardrail, the city a distant glow behind them. He put the car in park and turned to her, his face a mask of anger and something more raw inside, maybe fear, maybe hurt, maybe both. You know what, he said, voice low. You want space so badly, take it. She stared at him, not understanding. Get out. Her chest tightened. What? Walk home. The two words punched the air out of her lungs. She searched his face for a sign. He was bluffing, a joke, a crack in the mask. There was nothing. Adrian, you cannot be serious. You say you are not helpless, he snapped. You say you are not just my wife. Prove it. You want to be away from me so badly. Get out and walk. The words sliced through every soft place left in her. You would leave me on the side of the road at night. Maybe then you will understand that the world out there is not some sad love story. It is ugly and cold, and I keep you out of it, and all you do is complain. Her hand shook on the door handle. Part of her wanted to keep arguing, to break him down until he saw what he was doing. Another part was too tired, too hurt. Fine, she whispered. She unbuckled the seatbelt, every movement feeling unreal. She opened the door, cool air rushing in, the sound of the river louder than before. She stepped out onto the gravel, her heels crunching softly. For a second she stood there, the open door between them, the only connection left. He stared straight ahead at the road, hands on the wheel, jaw clenched. She waited for him to stop her, to say he was wrong, to reach out and pull her back in like he had done 100 times in smaller fights. He said nothing. The silence screamed louder than any insult. She closed the door gently, the soft click sounding final. She wrapped her arms around herself and started walking the night, swallowing her footsteps piece by piece, the car headlights still spilling light on the road behind her. She did not look back. Inside the car, Adrian gripped the steering wheel, breathing hard, anger and pride and something hollow clawing at his chest. She will call, he told himself. She will turn around, she will bang on the window and shout, and we will drive home in silence like always, and tomorrow we will pretend none of this happened. He glanced in the rearview mirror. Her figure grew smaller under the streetlights, a slim shadow in a green dress against the gray world. For a heartbeat his resolve wavered, his hand shifted toward the door handle. Then his phone buzzed on the console, a message from one of his men, urgent, I need you now. Something about a shipment, something about a threat, something about the life he had chosen. His jaw tightened. He looked between the phone and the shrinking figure of his wife. He told himself he would make it up to her later, bring flowers, apologize in the way he knew how, diamonds, dinners, promises. He picked up the phone and answered. Maya kept walking, each step heavier than the one before. The road curved slightly. She could no longer see the front of the car, only the halo of its headlights behind her. The air smelled like river water and asphalt, and the faint memory of his cologne, sweet and sharp and gone. She thought of turning back, thought of swallowing her pride, of opening the door and crawling back into the familiar cage, but something inside her refused. If she turned back now, she knew this, moment would repeat again and again until there was nothing left of her, so she kept walking. The sound came a minute later, not a scream, not a shout, the screech of tires losing control on wet asphalt, the crunch of metal hitting metal, the hollow sickening thud that does not sound like anything until your brain catches up and realizes it is a car. And something beneath it. Adrian's head snapped up, the phone slipping from his hand into the dark of the passenger side. His heart stopped, then slammed back to life harder than it ever had before. Maya had disappeared from the glow of his headlights. Adrian shoved the car door open so fast it bounced back and hit him, but he did not feel it. He was already sprinting down the dark road, the screech of tires still echoing the air, still vibrating with the violence of the impact. The night felt split open, his chest felt split open, his heart thundering loud enough to drown out every thought except one, Maya. The headlights from another car flickered wildly. Across the guardrail ahead, one beam tilted into the trees, the other pointing skyward like a broken limb. Smoke rose thin and gray, drifting across the asphalt. Adrian ran harder, gravel cutting into his shoes, lungs burning, breath uneven, the world narrowing down to the curve of the road, and the dark shape beyond it. A man's voice was shouting near the crashed vehicle, panicked, breathless, oh God, someone help, someone help. Adrian rounded the bend and stopped so abruptly his knees almost buckled. The scene burned itself into him. The car, a small silver sedan, slammed into a guardrail, its front crushed like paper, the windshield spiderweb, the passenger door hanging open, smoke pouring out, and on the ground several feet away, lying terribly still, was a woman in a green dress, hair spilled across the asphalt like ink. The world fell out from under him. Maya, her name tore through him like fire. He ran to her, dropping to his knees, gravel biting through the fabric of his suit. He barely noticed the driver kneeling beside her, hands shaking. I did not see her, he cried. She stepped out. She was just walking. Adrian barely heard him. His entire mind tunneled down into the stillness of her body. He touched her shoulder gently, almost afraid she would break under his hand. The warmth of her skin felt faint, too faint. Maya. He said the words, barely a whisper. Maya, look at me. Her eyes remained closed, her lashes unmoving, her lips parted slightly. Her breath shallow, so shallow he had to lean close to feel it. Her green dress torn at the side, soaked with dirt, her bare arms scraped raw, her heels snapped, lying a foot away. Adrian's hands shook uncontrollably. He had never felt fear like this, not in gunfights, not in ambushes, not when men twice his size came at him with knives. None of that came close to the terror blooming inside him now. She was breathing, but barely. The driver sobbed, I swear I did not see her. The road was dark. She came out of nowhere. Adrian looked at him, eyes so cold. The man flinched, but Adrian did not swing, did not shout, did not threaten. All the fury of his blood went somewhere deeper, something like grief, something like guilt. He lifted Maya, carefully cradling her head against his chest, her hair brushing his chin. Maya, stay with me, keep breathing, breathe for me, please. He pressed his forehead to hers, inhaling brokenly. She smelled like her perfume and the night air, and something metallic beneath it, something that did not belong. Sir, an ambulance is coming, the driver cried. I called them, please believe me, I called them. Adrian barely heard the words. He rocked her gently, his heartbeat slamming against her cheek, his suit soaked in dust from the road and in the rising dread inside him. Maya, you have to stay with me. I am right here. I never left you. I am right here. But he had left her minutes ago. He had left her in the dark on the road alone, because of pride, because of anger, because he thought he had more time to fix it. Tomorrow, later, someday. Now there might be no someday, sir. One of his men shouted, running up the road. Boss, what happened? Adrian looked up, his voice hollow. Get the ambulance here faster, his man radioed desperately. But sir, we cannot make it faster. The ambulance is already. Get them here faster, Adrian roared, the sound ripping out of him raw and desperate. The sirens finally broke through the quiet wailing, through the night, flashing red and blue across the trees. The paramedics ran up with a stretcher, voices quick, urgent, controlled. They moved her gently, placing her onto the board, securing her head, one of them checking her pulse, another assessing her breathing. Is she conscious? No response. Is she breathing? Barely. Tachypneic. Possible spinal risk, possible internal trauma. Move now, move now. Their voices cut through him like knives. Adrian followed the stretcher as they rushed it toward the ambulance. He grabbed one medic's arm. Tell me she is going to live. Tell me something. The medic met his eyes with a look he did not want to understand. Sir, we do not know yet. The doors slammed shut and the siren screamed as the ambulance sped down the road, light flickering across the dark trees. Adrian did not think he got into his own car and floored the engine, tires skidding against asphalt, the road flying beneath him, his breath uneven, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Maya lay dying because he told her to walk home. The hospital lights burned cold and bright. When he arrived, he burst through the doors, ignoring everyone, receptionists, doctors, security. He pushed past them all until two guards stopped him. Sir, you cannot go in there. He shoved them aside. I am her husband. Let me through. The nurse stepped between them, her eyes sharp, calm. Sir, she is in surgery. You cannot enter the operating wing. Surgery. The word almost knocked him to his knees. How long? He rasped. How long has she been in there? Half an hour, sir, maybe more, the nurse said quietly. Adrian sank into a chair, elbows on his knees, hands over his face. The sterile hallway felt suffocating, the hum of fluorescent lights droning above him. He had sat in places like this before, waiting to hear if men he commanded lived. or died, but none of that prepared him for this. Every minute stretched into something unbearable, into punishment. One of his men arrived breathless. Boss, we secured the crash site. Do you want us to handle the driver? Adrian's head snapped up, eyes burning. No, he said, voice like gravel. Leave him alone. This was not him. This was me. The man nodded slowly, fear and worry mixing in his expression. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time bent and frayed. He bowed his head, hands clasped as if praying, though he had not prayed for anything in years until tonight. Maya, please live, please just breathe, please stay. Finally the doors opened. A doctor stepped out, pulling off her gloves, her face weary and serious. She scanned the room until her eyes landed on him. Adrian Costa, yes. He stood so fast the chair crashed backward. She walked toward him, her voice steady. Your wife is alive, but she is not stable yet. She has multiple fractured ribs, a concussion, deep lacerations, and internal bleeding. We managed to stop the hemorrhage, but she lost a lot of blood. We are monitoring her closely. Adrian swallowed so hard his throat burned. Can I see her? Not yet, the doctor said gently. She is unconscious, and we need to keep her under observation. She is in critical condition. The words hammered through him. Critical. She could die. She might not wake up. This was not a wound he could negotiate with, not a threat he could eliminate, not a deal he could buy his way out of. This was the price of his anger. The doctor hesitated. One more thing, she said. The impact caused trauma to her lungs. She is on assisted breathing for now. We will update you as soon as we can. She left him with those words, slicing the air around him. Adrian sat back down, hands trembling. He stared at the wall ahead, seeing nothing, hearing nothing except the echo of the words he had said. Get out, walk home. He had told her to walk into the dark, and she almost died in it. Hours bled into dawn. The hospital lights dimmed a little. The noise in the halls faded. His men rotated in shifts, sitting silently around him. One brought water. He did not drink. One brought coffee. He did not touch. He sat completely still, his head bowed, his chest tight, as if the world sat inside it, crushing his ribs from the inside out. Just after sunrise, the doctor returned, her voice low. Your wife is stable for now, but she is not waking up yet. You need to prepare for the possibility of a coma. The world tilted, the floor fell, the air thinned. Coma because of him, because he let anger speak louder than love, because he told her to walk. He pressed both hands to his face, but he could not contain the sound that escaped him, a broken exhale, a strangled breath, something between fury and grief and regret so deep it carved into bone. Maya lay unconscious behind a door he could not open, and every minute she stayed that way felt like another piece of him was being peeled away. He looked at the doctor, voice raw. Can she hear me? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, it depends, she answered. He nodded once, barely breathing. I want to see her. I need to see her. She hesitated, then motioned him forward. Follow me. Adrian walked into the room where his wife lay, the machines beeping softly, the tubes, the bruises, the pale stillness, the way her hair fanned across the pillow. He bit the inside of his cheek until he tasted blood to keep from collapsing. She looked small, too quiet, too fragile. He approached the bed slowly, sitting beside her, his hand shaking as he brushed her hair from her face. Maya, I am here, he whispered. I am not leaving. I swear to you, I am not leaving. But she did not open her eyes. She did not move. She just breathed, faint and slow, held between this world and another. Adrian lowered his head to her hand, holding it against his forehead, breath shuddering through him. What happened minutes later broke him, but what came after this moment would destroy him. The hospital room dimmed into a muted gray, the blinds half drawn, letting in a sliver of morning light, dust drifting through it like slow falling snow. Adrian sat at Maya's bedside, his elbows on his knees, her hand between both of his, as if he could anchor her to this world by sheer force. Her skin felt cold, not the cold of death, but the cold of someone suspended between life and something deeper, something unreachable. Machines hummed beside her, soft, steady beeps that were both a promise and a threat. His eyes stayed on her face, studying every inch, the faint bruise on her forehead, the cuts along her cheek, the way her eyelashes rested against her skin. She looked peaceful and broken at the same time. He had seen men shot in alleyways and stitched up in back rooms. He had seen bodies pulled from rivers swollen and gray. He had seen enemies fall and friends die. And he had never once felt this kind of fear, this quiet, suffocating terror that crept into his bones and wrapped itself around his ribs like iron. His phone buzzed again and again, vibrating on the chair beside him. He did not look at it. His men stepped into the doorway more than once, whispering about problems brewing, threats rising, territories shifting, sharks circling the moment they sensed weakness. But Adrian never lifted his head. He just said the same thing over and over. Handle it. After hours of silence, Nurse Selena stepped into the room, checking the machines, adjusting the four. She watched him for a moment, her expression soft, then said, she is still fighting. That is good. The body does not keep fighting unless it wants to come back. He nodded, but his throat was too tight to answer. You should eat something, she added gently. Drink water at least. He shook his head. No. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. You should talk to her, even if she cannot answer. Sometimes they hear more than you think. Adrian looked at Maya again. and something inside him cracked. He reached out, brushing his thumb across her hand slowly, the way she always liked when she was anxious. He cleared his throat, the sound rough and unfamiliar. "Maya, you need to wake up," he said, voice low and raw. "I know you cannot hear me, but you have to try, and if you can hear me even a little, even a tiny bit, I need you to know something." He took a shaking breath. "I was wrong that night. Everything I said, everything I did, I was wrong. I was angry and stupid and cruel, and I let my pride talk for me instead of my heart. I told you to walk, I told you to get out, and I meant none of it, none." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I love you, but I have not loved you the right way, not in a long time. I let the world pull me away from you, and I thought you would always wait for me, always forgive me, always stay, but I was wrong about that too." The machines continued their rhythm, unbothered, unmoved. He bowed his head, pressing his forehead to the edge of the bed. "I am sorry, Maya, for everything I did, for everything I did not do, for the man I became. I am begging you, please, please wake up. I will fix it. I swear I will fix everything. Just stay." The door opened again softly. It was Nora, her younger sister, hair tied up, face tight with exhaustion. She froze in the doorway, seeing Adrian at the bedside, chest shaking, eyes red from sleeplessness. She stepped in quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "How is she?" Adrian did not look at her for a long moment, then he said the same words that had been tearing him apart. "She is not waking up." Nora walked to the other side of the bed, brushing Maya's hair back with trembling fingers. She leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her sister's forehead, her lips shaking. "Adrian," she started, then stopped, swallowing hard. "She needs peace." He looked up at her, confusion clouding his eyes. Nora straightened, facing him. "You being here is not helping her," she said gently but firmly. "You are hurting too loud. The guilt, the fear, it fills the room. She feels everything, even if she is unconscious. You have always been like this. You burn up the space around you." He felt the words slice deep, but part of him knew they were true. Nora continued, "You need to leave for now. Go home, shower, sleep, breathe. If Maya wakes up and sees you like this, she will break before she even heals." Adrian shook his head. "No, she needs me here." Nora stepped closer, lowering her voice. "She needs you better not." Broken, the words hit something raw inside him. He finally looked at Maya, her face peaceful, distant, unreachable. He wanted to fight, to argue, to stay chained to her bedside forever, but for the first time in his life, the strongest thing he could do was step back. He leaned down, brushing a kiss to her hand, then whispered, "I will be back, Mia Moore. Please come back to me." He stood slowly, feeling the weight of the world settle onto his shoulders. He walked toward the door, then stopped, turning back one last time. The sight of her lying there still and silent carved itself into him. He stepped out of the room into the hallway, where the world felt too bright, too loud, too alive compared to the quiet war happening inside the room. Nora stayed behind, sitting where he had sat moments ago. She held Maya's hand, whispering something soft and soothing, something only sisters understood. Adrian walked toward the exit, each step heavier than the last. He passed the nurses, the families, the doctors, the crying children, the tired men, the vending machines humming, the elevator dinging. He felt the entire hospital spinning around him, but nothing touched him, nothing reached him, nothing existed except the sound still echoing in his head, the screech of tires, the hollow crash, the silence. After he stepped out into the cold morning air, leaning against the wall for a moment, trying to breathe, trying to keep the world from collapsing around him, his car was parked crooked from how fast he had arrived. He slid into the seat, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles burned. He dropped his head into his hands, breath shaking. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it, then buzzed again, louder, harsher, angrier. He checked the screen. Finally, one of his men had texted, "Boss, you need to come in now. There is a situation. The Russians are moving. They think you are weak. They think you are gone." Adrian erased the message without replying. The only thing weak about him was the part that almost lost his wife forever. He leaned back, closing his eyes, remembering the look on her face before she stepped out of the car, the way her lips trembled, the way her voice cracked when she said, "I am lonely." Adrian, he deserved every second of this pain, but the world he lived in did not give space for pain, not for long. If others sensed blood, they came for more. He started the engine, the hum filling the silence, but he did not drive toward his headquarters. He drove home to their penthouse, the place that still smelled like her, the place that felt like a grave now. When he stepped inside the apartment, the silence punched him in the chest. He walked through the room slowly, as if expecting her to appear in one of them, in the kitchen, holding a mug, in the living room, curled on the couch, in the hallway, brushing her hair, but every room was empty. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands, the city outside buzzing, unaware of the storm ripping him open. He sat like that for hours, motionless, until the sun dipped again and the sky turned orange. A knock echoed at the door, firm, controlled, familiar. Adrian looked up, jaw tightening. "Come in." The door opened. Marco, one of his closest men, entered, face serious, his voice low. "Boss, we need to talk. Now is not the time." Adrian muttered. "It is exactly the time," Marco said, "because news is spreading fast. People are saying your wife is dead." Adrian's head snapped up. "She is not dead," Marco nodded. "But the streets believe she is, and there are men who think you will fall apart if she goes. They are testing borders already. If you do nothing, you will lose everything." Adrian stood slowly, eyes like cold fire. "Good." He said let them test, I want them to, all of them. Every man who thinks my grief is weakness will learn what it feels like to bleed. Marco swallowed. Boss, you are not thinking clear. Adrian stepped forward, his voice quiet and lethal. I have never thought clearer in my life. She is the only thing I care about, and anyone who uses that against me will not see another sunrise. Marco lowered his head, knowing there was no reasoning with him tonight. Adrian grabbed his coat, but instead of heading to war, he headed back to the hospital. He walked through the doors again, the same sterile smell, the same humming machines. And when he stepped into Maya's room, she was still there, still silent, still fighting. He sat down again, taking her hand, gently lowering his forehead to her knuckles, whispering, I will fix everything, just come back to me. I will tear down my entire empire if you want. I will disappear from that world. I will change for you. I promise you, Maya, please. But she did not move, not yet. He stayed there long into the night until the machines were the only sound and the hallway lights dimmed once more, and for the first time since the crash her finger twitched just once. The movement was so small Adrian almost thought he imagined it, a faint twitch like a whisper of life, the smallest flicker of will, but it was real, it was hers, and it was enough to rip the breath out of his chest. He lifted his head, staring at her hand, willing it to move again, willing her to come back to him, but her fingers lay still, soft, pale, fragile against the sheets. Nurse Selena stepped in, pausing when she saw the look on his face. What happened? He swallowed hard. Her hand, it moved, even if she cannot wake fully yet. Muscle memory sometimes responds, the nurse said gently, though her voice carried a thin thread of hope. We will monitor her. She checked the machines, adjusted the blankets, then slipped out, leaving him alone with Maya again. Adrian leaned back in the chair, staring at her face, memorizing every line as if he feared she might drift away again. She looked peaceful, softer than she had in months, as if the pain and weight she carried in their last weeks together had been washed away, leaving something delicate behind. Hours passed in quiet, his phone buzzing occasionally, but he ignored it. He did not care about territory or rivals or the shifting balance of power in the underworld. The only war that mattered was happening in this hospital bed. As dawn climbed slowly across the sky, he felt exhaustion settle on him, heavy and relentless, his eyes burning from sleepless nights. He let his head fall back, closing his eyes just for a moment, and that was when he heard it, the faintest shift of blankets, the softest breath changing rhythm. He snapped upright, his eyes locking on hers. She was not awake, not fully, but her eyelids fluttered, faint movements like someone trapped in a dream trying to rise to the surface. Maya, he whispered, voice trembling, can you hear me? Her eyelashes trembled again, a faint crease forming between her eyebrows as if she were trying to respond. A tiny sound escaped her throat, not a word, just a breath shaped by struggle. Adrian leaned closer, his forehead brushing her hand again. Maya, I am here, come back to me, please come back. But her eyes did not open fully, they drifted again into stillness, trapped somewhere between consciousness and the dark. The doctor entered moments later, checking the monitors, her tone measured. This is a positive sign, but she is not waking yet. Her body is trying to heal. That can take time, hours, days, weeks. We cannot predict. Adrian's jaw clenched quietly. Then what do I do? Be here, she said simply. Be calm. She needs that. But calm was not something he had ever mastered. It had never been part of his nature. He ruled with fire, lived with fire, breathed with fire. And now that same fire had nearly burned the only person who ever soothed him. When the doctor left, Adrian sat back, hands clasped together, staring at the wall, thinking, turning pieces of his life over and over in his mind, examining them like broken glass until every sharp edge cut him. He thought about the fights, the cold dinners, the nights he came home so late she was already asleep. He thought about the mornings she forced a smile and made coffee and tried to pretend the distance between them did not exist. He thought about all the ways she reached for him and all the ways he pulled back because he was too busy fighting the world he thought he could handle but lacked the courage to admit he was losing. He thought about how easily anger had taken control that night, how cruelly the words had come out, how he had turned away instead of turning back. A quiet knock echoed in the doorway. Nora stepped in again, eyes swollen from crying. She looked at Maya, then at him, then sighed quietly. Did you sleep at all? No, you look like you are about to collapse, she said softly. I am fine, he muttered, even as his voice cracked. Nora moved closer, her expression softer than before. You love her, she said, and he nodded once as if the word itself hurt. If she wakes, you cannot go back to the way things were. He stared at Maya, his voice quiet but certain. I will not. Nora hesitated, then sat across from him. Maya told me things she was afraid to tell you. She said she felt alone even when you were in the same room. She said she had to carry her sadness quietly so it would not add to your pressure. She said she missed you every day even when you were beside her. Adrian swallowed hard, each word hitting him like a stone. Nora continued, I am not against you, but if she wakes, she cannot return to a house filled with fear and secrets and nights alone. She needs a partner, not a shadow. Adrian looked at the floor, voice barely a whisper. I know. Nora stood, brushing her fingers across Maya's cheek gently, then said, what she needs now is light. Talk to her, tell her something good, something that is not a confession or apology, something that feels like home. When she left, Adrian pulled his chair closer He reached for Maya's hand again and held it gently. He thought for a moment, then began speaking quietly like telling a bedtime story. Do you remember the apartment in Brooklyn, the tiny one before any of this, before the suits and the meetings and the guns, the one with the leaky ceiling and the slanted floor and the neighbors who cooked at 3 in the morning? His voice softened. I used to wake up and see you dancing barefoot in the kitchen, humming something you did not know the words to, burning pancakes every time, but smiling like the world was already perfect. I used to think if I could make you smile like that forever, I would never need anything else. The memory cracked something inside him. Do you remember the stray cat you tried to adopt? He whispered. The one that hated me, the one that scratched my hand every time I tried to feed it. I pretended to hate that cat, but I fed it every night after you fell asleep. He exhaled slowly. I remember everything, Maya, everything. I just forgot to tell you. Silence wrapped around them again, but this time something felt different. The air lighter, the room softer, as if the memories filled the emptiness with warmth. For the first time since the accident, Adrian felt something shift inside himself. Not guilt, not grief, something else, resolve. He stood stretching his sore muscles, stepped into the hallway, and called Marco, voice low, meet me tonight at my office. Call the others. No one touches our borders, no one makes a move. Tell them the streets talk too much and they are all lying. Marco paused. Boss, what about Adrian? Cut him off. I am not going to war, we are rebuilding. And if anyone tests that, I will bury them. He hung up and returned to the room, sitting once more where he had been before. He watched Maya breathe, watched the faint rise and fall of her chest, watched the soft flicker beneath her eyelids. Then as the sun dipped again, turning the hospital walls gold, something happened. Her fingers twitched again, stronger this time. Her lips parted just slightly and then her eyelids lifted, only for a moment, only a sliver, only enough for him to see her eyes, unfocused and clouded with pain but alive. Maya, he whispered, hoarse and shaking. Maya, can you hear me? Her gaze shifted barely, but toward his voice. A single tear slid from the corner of her eye. Adrian leaned closer, breath trembling. I am here, I am right here, my love, please keep fighting, please stay. Her lips moved a fraction of an inch, no sound, but the shape was unmistakable. Adrian, the name nearly brought him to his knees. She slipped back into unconsciousness seconds later, but it did not matter. She had spoken, she had reached for him, she had come back, even if only for a moment. He grabbed her hand, pressing it to his forehead, breath breaking into a quiet sob. She was alive, she was coming back, and he would burn his entire world to keep her safe. The hospital room felt different after that moment, the air warmer, the shadows softer, as if her single whispered breath had changed the gravity around them. Adrian sat frozen, replaying it again and again in his mind, the way her lips formed his name, the way her fingers trembled as if reaching for something far away or someone, and that someone was him. After hours of silence, the doctor returned, her steps quick, her eyes sharper than before. The nurse said. She responded. The doctor murmured, that is an excellent sign, we will run scans, keep her monitored. Her brain is trying to wake up, her body too, she is fighting. And that is everything. Adrian nodded, unable to speak, emotion lodged in his throat like a stone. He stayed by her side as nurses moved around, quietly adjusting machines, checking vitals, whispering updates, but all he saw was Maya. All he felt was her presence, even in stillness. Late into the night, the room dimmed, the beeping steady, the world outside shrinking to nothing. Adrian leaned back, exhausted beyond measure, his eyes burning, his body drained, but he refused to leave her again. He kept her hand in his and whispered stories, memories, promises, apologies, anything that might pull her closer to the surface. Around dawn, her breathing changed. It shifted deeper, steadier, like her body was remembering how to exist again. Her eyelashes fluttered once, twice, then slowly her eyes opened fully, not wide, not sudden, but enough to show the dark, soft brown beneath, enough to show she was no longer lost in that deep, unreachable place. Maya. He breathed her name, cracking open every piece of him. She blinked slowly, her gaze drifting across the light on the ceiling, the curtain, the wall, then finally landing on him. Confusion flickering, pain flickering, recognition flickering. Adrian this time. Her voice existed, a faint whisper shaped by effort, trembling and thin but real. He leaned closer, his whole body shaking. I am here, I am right here, me amor. She looked at him, her eyes unfocused, then narrowing slightly as memories returned in slow, painful fragments. The road, the darkness, the fight, the cold outside air, the headlights, then nothing. What happened? She whispered. He closed his eyes a moment, steadying himself, then looked at her again, his voice low, trembling. There was an accident, someone hit you, you were thrown from the road, you have been unconscious for days, you are safe now, you are alive. She swallowed, her throat dry, her lips cracked, her eyes searching his face for truth, for grief, for guilt. She found all three. Why was I there? She asked quietly, not accusing but wounded, her voice soft, fragile, like something newly healed. Adrian felt the words stab into him. He took her hand gently, his thumb brushing against her knuckles. You were there because I failed you, because I said things I should never have said, because I let my pride speak louder than my love. I told you to leave the car, I told you to walk, and those words almost killed you. A tear slipped silently from her eye. He leaned forward, voice breaking. I am sorry, Maya, for everything, for every night you waited for me, for every time I ignored you, for every moment I let my world swallow the man you married. I will spend the rest of my life fixing it if you let me. She did not answer. Right away, her gaze drifting toward the window, toward the faint morning light filling the room. She looked tired, too tired to hold anger, too tired to carry pain. Her voice soft, barely audible. Adrian, I cannot go back to the same life. His chest tightened, but he nodded. I know, and I will change all of it. I swear to you, I will walk away from everything that ever hurt us. I will build something new, something safe, something that does not destroy what we are. She closed her eyes a moment, breathing slowly. Then whispered, I need time. The words hurt, but they did not break him because they were alive, because she was alive, because she was speaking, and he would take any word she gave him, even if it carved him open. Take all the time you need, he whispered. I will wait forever if I have to. Over the next week, Maya slowly regained strength. Nurses helped her sit up. Doctors checked her vitals. She spoke in short breaths, saving her voice, saving her energy. Adrian was there for every second, never leaving, never raising his voice, never answering his phone, never letting anything outside that room touch him. Nora watched quietly, surprised by the transformation. She saw a man stripped of ego, stripped of fire, stripped of the armor he always wore. She saw a man who would have crawled across glass to undo the moment he told his wife to walk into the dark. When Maya was finally discharged, she did not go home with him. She chose to stay at Nora's apartment, needing space, needing quiet, needing distance from the life that nearly ended her. Adrian did not argue. He kissed her forehead gently, whispered, take your time, and walked away, leaving her with her sister, his heart heavy but steady, determined to earn back her trust inch by inch, breath by breath. The following days were a storm in the criminal world. The Russians tested the waters, the Italians circled the docks, the Colombians sniffed for weakness, but Adrian did not react with rage. He reacted with precision. He met every threat with cold strategy, not fire. He shut down every rumor, every whisper, every move, one by one, until the streets fell silent again, until everyone understood one thing: he was not weak, he was changing, and a changing man was more dangerous than a cruel one. But even while rebuilding his empire into something cleaner, something less poisoned, he never stopped thinking of Maya. He sent groceries to Nora's door without knocking. He arranged therapy sessions for Maya quietly without forcing her to attend. He covered her medical bills anonymously so she would not feel his shadow over her recovery. He wrote letters he never sent and burned them in his fireplace. He went to church once for the first time since he was a boy and whispered a prayer he did not remember how to shape. Weeks passed. Then one evening Maya texted him 3 words: we need to talk. He arrived at Nora's apartment, heart racing, palms sweating, but he kept his steps calm. He knocked once. She opened the door slowly, stepping aside without a smile but without anger. She wore a soft sweater, her hair tied back, her bruises faded, but her heart still fragile. She walked to the small dining table, sat down, and gestured for him to sit across from her. There was no fear in her eyes, only honesty and a quiet strength. She had grown from pain. Adrian, she began, voice steady, we cannot pretend nothing happened. He nodded. I know. I am not ready to go back to your world, she said. I am not ready to live with violence outside the window and silence inside the house. I need someone who shows up, someone who listens, someone who chooses me. He breathed slowly, then looked into her eyes. You are the only person I choose. I will prove it, not with promises, with change. She studied him for a long moment, then said, show me. Those 2 words became the beginning of everything. He met with lawyers to legally clean his businesses. He hired security for her that she approved. He took therapy seriously. He attended couples sessions without anger. He started cooking for the first time in his life. He apologized to people he had hurt. He showed up on time. He stayed present. He listened. He softened, and slowly, piece by broken piece, Maya let him in again. Months later, on a quiet afternoon with sunlight spilling through the windows, she took his hand gently and said, I think I am ready to come home. Adrian felt emotion choke him. He kissed her knuckles, whispering, thank you for giving me another chance. They moved into a smaller, quieter house, away from the city, away from the noise, away from the life that had nearly taken everything. They built something new, filling it with warmth, with slow mornings, with soft touches, with long conversations, with laughter that felt real again. One morning months later, Maya walked out of the bathroom holding a small white stick, her hands shaking, her eyes bright with disbelief and fear and joy all at once. Adrian looked up from the couch, concern flashing until he saw her expression and the object she held. His breath caught Maya. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. I am pregnant. The world fell silent, then filled with a light he had not felt in years. He crossed the room in 3 strides, lifting her gently into his arms, holding her close, breathing her in. You gave me life again, he whispered. Now we get to give life together. They stood there in the soft morning light, 2 people rebuilt from ashes, finding something sacred in the ruins of everything they survived. And from that day forward, Adrian never raised his voice at her, never told her to walk away again, never chose the world over her, because he had learned the hardest way that love survives only when it is protected, held, cared for, not commanded, not controlled. And the night he almost lost her became the night he chose to become the man she deserved. Thank you all for staying with us through this emotional journey of loss, healing, and second chances. If Maya's story touched your heart, even for a moment, tell us in the comments where you are watching from, which country, which city. Your support means everything. And it helps us keep bringing powerful stories to life. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the video. And remember, the words we say in anger can break a life, and the love we choose can rebuild it. See you in the next story.